He was shot in the chest, shot in the legs, shot through the arm, and with the blood filling his boots, he crawled a quarter-mile across open sand, not to save himself, but to save a piece of cloth. When he finally fell into the arms of his own men, he said only this: "Boys, I did but my duty. The dear old flag never touched the ground." His name was William Carney. He was born a slave, and what he did on July 18th, 1863, made him the first black man in American history whose courage would earn the Medal of Honor. This is the story they flatten into a single movie scene and forget. But the men of the 54th Massachusetts were not extras. They were free black men and escaped slaves who volunteered to fight for a country that paid them less, armed them late, and warned them that capture meant execution or re-enslavement. On one strip of South Carolina beach, they proved, in front of a nation that doubted them, that black soldiers would not break. Roughly half of them would not come home, and the country spent the next century trying to shrink what they did into a footnote. Today, we put it back where it belongs. In 1863, after the Emancipation Proclamation opened the door, Massachusetts raised one of the North's first black regiments, the 54th. Frederick Douglass himself signed men up in his newspaper and sent his own two sons, Lewis and Charles, into the ranks. They trained outside Boston under a young white abolitionist colonel, Robert Gould Shaw. But before they faced the enemy, they faced their own government. White soldiers were paid $13 a month. The black men of the 54th were offered 10, and then docked 3 for clothing, leaving 7. The men of the 54th refused to take it, all of it. For 18 months, they served without accepting a single dollar, rather than accept the insult that their lives were worth less. When Massachusetts offered to quietly make up the difference, they refused that too. It was never about the money. It was about the principle that a soldier is a soldier. By July 1863, the 54th had reached the Sea Islands of South Carolina. Their target was Battery Wagner, an enormous sand fortress guarding Charleston Harbor, its walls 30 feet high, its only approach a narrow ribbon of beach squeezed between the Atlantic surf and a swamp. A death trap. The 54th asked to lead the charge anyway. At dusk on July 18th, roughly 600 men of the 54th formed at the head of the assault. Shaw drew his sword and called them forward into a storm of cannon and rifle fire. He reached the parapet, shouted "Forward, 54th," and was shot dead on the wall. And in that chaos, the regiment's color bearer, carrying the American flag, the heart of the unit, was hit. William Carney was near him when he fell. To lose the colors was the ultimate disgrace. Carney threw down his rifle, seized the falling flag before it hit the sand, and pushed forward all the way to the wall. He planted the colors on the parapet and held them under withering fire. When the order came to fall back, he would not leave the flag. He wrapped it around the staff and began to crawl back across that killing beach. A bullet tore into his chest. Another shattered a leg. He was hit in the arm, grazed across the head. Still, he kept the flag upright. When soldiers from another regiment offered to carry the colors, he refused to hand them to anyone but a man of the 54th. He staggered into his own lines, sank to his knees, and spoke the words that would outlive him. "Boys, I did but my duty. The dear old flag never touched the ground." The wounded men around him, half of them dying, found the strength to cheer. The 54th lost roughly half its men at Fort Wagner. The fort did not fall that night, and yet the charge changed the war. News of black soldiers standing and dying under fire ran through the North, and black enlistment surged. Nearly 200,000 would serve before the war ended. Shaw was buried by the Confederates in a mass grave with his black soldiers, meant as an insult. His family called it an honor. Carney survived. He went home to New Bedford and became one of the first black letter carriers in the United States, walking a route for more than 30 years. His valor came before that of any other black Medal of Honor recipient, though the medal itself did not reach his hands until 1900, 37 years after the beach. He died in 1908. A man born as someone else's property carried this nation's flag through fire when the nation itself had not yet decided he was fully a citizen and refused to let it fall. They shrank him to a scene in a movie. They can't erase him if we keep saying his name. William Harvey Carney. The 54th Massachusetts. Fort Wagner. July 18th, 1863. Sources are in the description. Subscribe so they can't erase this. And the free reading list is linked below. Everything you need to go deeper is there.